The harvest festival was supposed to be the happiest day this village had seen in years. The whole village had gathered. Colorful wrappers. Children running between people's legs. Drums already going strong. The king himself had come, King Obinna, ruler of the entire Eastern Territory, seated on a carved ceremonial chair at the center of it all, surrounded by his royal guards in deep blue cloth with gold trim. Everything was celebration. Everything was noise and color and life. Until the confrontation started. A man named Segun, the chief's nephew, the most powerful voice in that village, stepped into the center of the gathering and pointed at a woman near the back of the crowd. A woman wearing a plain cloth wrap over the upper half of her face. A woman people had been mocking for 3 years. He shouted for her to remove the mask. He called her a witch. He said it in front of the king, in front of everyone, because he wanted to destroy her completely and publicly. The crowd parted. Every eye turned to her. She walked forward. Slow, steady steps. Head up. She stopped in the center of the gathering. She looked past Segun. She looked directly at the king. And she removed the cloth herself. What happened next, in the 5 seconds after that cloth came down, turned that entire festival upside down. The king stood up from his seat. His senior guard grabbed the man beside him by the arm. Several of the royal guards dropped to their knees. And the king, in a voice that shook, said a single word that nobody in that village understood. Not yet. But they would. To understand what that word meant, and why this moment had been 3 years in the making, we have to go back. Back to the day she first arrived. Her name was Amara. She arrived on a Tuesday morning carrying nothing but a small bundle on her back and a clay water pot balanced on her head. She came from the direction of the eastern road, the road that led nowhere anyone knew. Nobody knew her. Nobody asked about her. And the way her face was wrapped, a simple strip of dark cloth covering her from her nose to her forehead, people decided quickly that they did not want to know her. She asked the village head if she could stay. He looked at her cloth-covered face and told her she could sleep near the well house. Not in the guest rooms. Near the well house. Like an animal. Amara nodded and said, "Thank you." Within 2 weeks, she had made herself useful. She woke before sunrise every morning and fetched water for 3 elderly women who could no longer carry their own pots. She helped the midwife, Mama Efua, with difficult deliveries. She knew herbs. She knew how to reduce fever. She knew how to stop bleeding with things she found in the bush. People let her help them. But they still would not look at her. The market women overcharged her every single time. What cost 5 cowries for everyone else cost her 10. When she sat down to eat at the community fire, women shifted their stools away from her. Children were told to stay back from the masked woman. Some of them threw small stones when the adults were not watching. She never fought back. She never complained. She just kept doing what she was doing, being useful, being quiet, surviving. People told stories about why she wore the mask. Some said she had a disease. Some said she had been burned. The worst ones said she was cursed, that if you looked at her face, something bad would happen to you. Those stories spread the way only bad stories can spread, fast, wide, and impossible to stop. And the man most responsible for spreading them was a man named Segun. Segun was the nephew of Chief Adis, the most powerful man in the village. And Segun never let anyone forget it. He was 26 years old, well-fed, well-dressed, and completely convinced that the world owed him everything. His uncle had given him a position overseeing the village trading routes, which meant he collected fees from farmers and merchants passing through. He was not evil in the way that people who've had nothing are evil, he was evil in the comfortable way. The way of a man who has never once had to deal with any consequence. From the moment he saw Amara, he hated her. It was not because of the mask. Not really. It was because she did not bow to him. Most people in the village greeted Segun first when he walked past. They called him Sir even though he held no official title. They laughed at his jokes even when they were not funny. Amara did none of that. She greeted him the same way she greeted the old farmers and the children. Simple. Equal. That drove him absolutely mad. He started calling her the witch by the well. He said it to anyone who would listen. He told the young men to throw her leftover food scraps instead of giving her a real portion. He told the market to charge her double. He organized it. He made it a system. And there was something else. Something he never told anyone. One early morning, about a month after Amara arrived, Segun had gone to the well before sunrise because he could not sleep. He had seen her there, alone, washing her face. The cloth had been loose. For just a brief moment, less than 5 seconds, he had seen her clearly in the grey early light. What he saw confused him. Disturbed him. Because the face under that cloth was not what he had been telling people. He never mentioned it. Instead, he doubled down. He spread the stories harder. Worse stories. Because something in him knew that if the truth came out, his version would be destroyed, and along with it, his control. His name was Claude. He had been away from the village for 2 years, working as a tracker and guide for traveling merchants along the northern routes. He came back with a small scar on his jaw, new boots, and a quietness about him that he had not had before he left. He noticed Amara on his first day back. Not because she was strange, but because of how people treated her. That kind of cruelty is obvious to someone who has been outside a place long enough to see it fresh. He sat next to her at the community fire one evening. She looked at him sideways, waiting for him to move like everyone else did. He did not move. He asked her name. She told him. He told her his. They ate in comfortable silence. His mother pulled him aside the next morning. "People are watching," she said. "You don't want to be connected to that woman. Nobody knows what she is. Segun says she's cursed." Claude looked at his mother for a long moment. Segun also said that old farmer Bello was stealing from the grain stores. Remember? And it turned out Segun was the one stealing. His mother had nothing to say to that. Claude kept sitting with Amara. He brought her firewood once when he saw she had run out. He defended her in the market when a trader tried to charge her 3 times the normal price. He never made a big show of it. He was just decent. Consistently, quietly decent. Amara noticed. She did not say much. But she noticed. What Claude did not know, what nobody knew, was that Amara was watching all of them. She had been watching since the first day. Watching who was kind. Watching who was cruel. Watching who stayed silent when they could have spoken. Taking note of every single person in this village. She had not come here by accident. The announcement came on a Friday. King Obina, ruler of the entire Eastern Territory, whose land covered 7 villages including this one, was coming to visit. He was coming for the harvest festival. He would inspect the village, hear from the people, and most importantly, he was looking for a bride for his eldest son, Prince Chidi. The village exploded with excitement. Every family with a daughter of marrying age started preparing immediately. New wrappers were bought. Hair was styled. Young women rehearsed how to walk, how to pour palm wine gracefully, how to speak softly and laugh beautifully. Segun had his own plan. He was hoping to use the king's visit to secure a political alliance. His uncle, the chief, was getting old. Segun wanted to be the next chief. But to do that, he needed to remove his competition, and his main competition was actually a quiet, principled man named Elder Dyke, who the village respected enormously. Segun had been spreading a rumor that Elder Dyke had been communicating with enemies of the kingdom. If he could get the king to believe that during this visit, Elder Dyke would be arrested, and Segun's path would be cleared. But there was one problem. Amara. Amara had helped Elder Dyke's wife through a terrible fever 3 weeks before. Elder Dyke trusted her, respected her, had told others she was not what Segun said she was. Segun decided he would deal with Amara publicly. During the festival, in front of the king, he would expose her as a witch, embarrass Elder Dyke for defending her, and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. He told Amara, through a messenger boy, that she was not welcome at the festival. That if she showed up, there would be trouble. Amara received the message, folded it, set it down, and on the morning of the festival, she got dressed anyway. The festival was everything it was supposed to be. The grounds were decorated with palm fronds and colorful cloth. Musicians played. Women danced in lines. Children weaved through the crowd with bowls of food. The whole village was there, dressed in their best. King Obinna arrived in the early afternoon with his procession. He was a tall, serious man with silver in his beard, wearing deep burgundy robes and a crown of polished brass. The village bowed as one. Amara stood near the back of the crowd, half hidden behind a group of older women. She wore her usual cloth wrap over her face. She watched the king with calm, steady eyes. Segun spotted her immediately. He waited. He let the greetings happen. He let the chief welcome the king. He let the first round of dancing finish. Then, when there was a natural pause and the king was seated with his attendants, Segun walked forward. He spoke loudly. He pointed. "My king, I must bring something to your attention. There is a woman in this village who has no origin, no family, and no face. She hides behind a mask. We have had sickness since she arrived. We have had bad luck since she arrived. I believe she is a practitioner of dark arts, and I believe Elder Dyke has been protecting her, possibly for his own dangerous reasons." The crowd murmured. Some people nodded. Others looked nervous. Elder Dyke started to speak, but Segun kept going. "Let us remove her mask right now, in front of the king, and let everyone see what she is hiding. If she has nothing to hide, she will not resist. And if she does resist, that itself is evidence." People turned. They found her at the back. They parted like water, clearing a path between her and the king's seat. All eyes were on Amara. She did not run. She did not look afraid. She walked forward slowly. Steady steps. Head up. Kolod moved to stand beside her. He said quietly, "You don't have to do this." She looked at him. "I know. But it is time." She stopped in the center of the gathering. Every drum had gone silent. Even the children had stopped moving. Segun stepped toward her. "Remove it. Now. Or I will remove it for you." He reached for the cloth. She put up her hand. He stopped, not because he chose to, but because something in her stillness made his hand freeze. She looked at the king. And she spoke directly to him. Her voice was clear, educated, carrying the tone of someone who has spoken in former courts. "I will remove it myself. But first, I would ask the king to look carefully. And to remember." And she reached up. Both hands. Slowly. The cloth came down. The first thing that hit the crowd was her face. Not a curse. Not a disease. Not horror. Beauty. Striking, undeniable, complete beauty. High cheekbones, dark clear skin, large almond-shaped eyes that caught the afternoon light and held it. She was not just attractive, she was the kind of face that makes a crowd go still because the brain needs an extra second to process what the eyes are seeing. There were gasps. Several of them. Then complete silence again. Segun took a step back. The market women who had overcharged her looked at each other. The children who had thrown stones pressed against their mothers. The elders who had said nothing while she was mocked stared at the ground. But it was not over. Because the king had gone rigid. He stood up slowly from his seat. His attendants moved instinctively. They had never seen the king stand without being announced. He took 2 steps forward. His eyes were locked on Amara's face, and whatever was written in them was not the reaction of a king meeting a stranger. It was recognition. One of his senior guards, the old one with grey temples and 40 years of service, physically grabbed the guard next to him by the arm. His mouth was open. The king's voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. He said one word. Addis. Not the chief's name. A different Addis. A name that meant something else entirely. Amara, or the woman the village had called Amara, lowered her head slowly. Father, she said. The senior guard dropped to both knees. Then the other guards. One by one, the entire royal procession knelt. And the truth, the real truth, came out now like water from a cracked dam, unstoppable, rushing, covering everything. Her name was Princess Addis Obina. First daughter of the king. Heir to the Eastern throne. 18 months before, there had been an assassination attempt. A political enemy of the king had paid 3 men to kill the princess before her official coronation could take place. She had escaped, barely, and disappeared into hiding on the advice of her most trusted advisor. The plan was simple. Find a village outside the royal territory. Live as a nobody. And in that living, discover who in this land was truly good and who was not, because the princess who survived would one day rule, and a ruler needs to know the true character of the people around her. She had chosen this village because of its reputation for trade connections. She had stayed because of what she found. She had watched Segun collect illegal fees from poor farmers and report them as market losses. She had watched the village head turn away sick travelers who needed shelter. She had watched the market women create a system of cruelty toward anyone they considered beneath them. But she had also watched Elder Dai give grain from his own stores to families who ran out before harvest. She had watched Mama Efwe the midwife refuse payment from mothers who had nothing. She had watched Kolod choose basic human decency in the face of social pressure, not once, not twice, but every single time. She had seen everything. She had written it all down. The king looked around at the village. His face was not soft. It was the face of a man doing calculations. He turned to Segun. You were the one who organized the cruelty toward my daughter. Segun opened his mouth. Nothing useful came out. The king looked at his daughter. What do you want? It was an important question. Because she was the one who had suffered it. The decision was hers. Princess Addis looked at Segun for a long moment. Then she looked at the village head. Then the market women. She looked at each of them fully, without anger, without hurry. Then she spoke. Segun will no longer hold any position over trade in this village. Every farmer and merchant he overcharged over the past 3 years will be repaid in full from his personal holdings. What is left after repayment, he will use to build a proper well structure so that the elderly women who cannot carry water will never need to carry it again. She paused. He will do this work himself. With his hands. Not servants. Him. Segun looked like he was going to be sick. The village head will step down from his position for failing the basic duty of hospitality to strangers. Elder Dyke will serve in his place, with full royal backing. Elder Dyke bowed his head. He was not smiling. He was the kind of man who understood the weight of responsibility. The market women who built a system of deliberate overcharging will pay into a community fund that gives fair starting prices to all traders, especially those new to the market. She turned to face the crowd fully. I do not punish you because I hate you. I punish the behavior because I have seen where it leads. A village that teaches cruelty to its children will harvest that cruelty for generations. That stops today. Nobody argued. The king stood behind his daughter, and there was no argument to be made. Before the princess left with her father's procession, she found Claude standing near the edge of the gathering, away from the chaos and the crying and the noise. She stood in front of him. He looked at her, really looked at her, and it was clear that even now, in royal cloth with the king behind her, she was the same person who had sat next to him at the community fire and eaten in comfortable silence. "You never asked me to remove the cloth," she said. "It was not my cloth to remove," he said. She nodded. She reached into the fold of her wrapper and pulled out a small carved token, the royal mark. She placed it in his hand. "If you ever want work that is worth doing, show this at the eastern gate. There is always a place for a man who knows how to be decent when it costs him something." She walked away. Claude looked down at the token in his palm for a long time. The village talked about that day for the rest of their lives. Not because of the beauty. Not even because of the royalty. But because of what it taught them about the masks people wear, and about who decides when it is safe to take them off. The mask you laugh at today might be the crown you bow to tomorrow.